Hey, thanks so much for joining us tonight. This session is called Getting FaceTime, a Chat with an Engineer. We're lucky to be joined by Drashti, Dave, and Karen Urosa from Turner Construction. Before I fully toss it over to them, I just want to go over the usual housekeeping stuff. Yeah, our sponsors, excellent timing on that. This specific session is brought to us by Turner, but always want to thank our other sponsors that help out throughout all of the SHLA program. We have Amateur Radio and Digital Communications, Danaher Corporation, General Motors, and Cisco. Yeah, community impact. So some other stuff just to get out of the way. As usual, some of you guys might be newer, and this might be one of your first ones you've been a part of as far as live sessions go. If you have questions, always kind of recommend writing them down. If you put them in the chat, sometimes they get buried before we get to our Q&A session. So if you have something, just kind of note it. There will be time towards the end of the session to get your questions answered. And just a reminder, this is pretty much second to last. The last live session that we have is the closing ceremony. So make sure that you get all of your 4 sessions viewed. If you haven't already, you can go back on the YouTube channel and watch them there, and then complete a survey for each session that you view. So you just have to have a total of 4, and just make sure that if you're watching ones that are on demand, that you do the survey that goes along with that video, because that's how we'll know which videos you watched. And I know some of you have been asking, and I will repeat it at the end, but the surveys are due on the 12th. So that's this Friday to have those done. I will send out a reminder about it as well, and I'll say it again, but just so you know, they're due on the 12th. I think that's enough of that quick stuff for now. Like I said, tonight we have Karen Urosa, a project engineer, and we have Drashti, Dave, an MEP engineer, and both of them work with Turner Construction. I've already seen parts of this presentation. It's really good. If you enjoyed what we had a couple weeks ago with Ruby, I think you'll really enjoy this one. They're gonna just give a lot of really great insight and information that I think you guys will really enjoy. So I'm gonna stop talking. I'm gonna hand it over to Karen and Drashti.
All right, so we'll start with a little icebreaker question, just so we can know where you guys are at in terms of picking your profession. What's everyone's dream profession? I'll start. You can throw it in the chat in the meantime. I'll start by letting you guys know that I had no idea what a general contractor was. That's what Turner is a general contractor. So if you ask me before Turner what was my dream profession, that would not have been it. I wanted to be an architect for the longest time I could remember, since I was 5. But as you know, the more you're in school, you learn what are different professions, and ended up going with the general contractor route.
Hi everyone, I was on a very different route as a kid. I wanted to be a doctor, and here I am. I ended up in civil engineering and working with Turner, a general contractor. Of course, I didn't know back then what a general contractor was, but going into school, I realized I'm not so good at biology, but I am a math person. So things change, and they changed a lot for me. So yeah, we have amazing responses, very exciting career choices.
Yeah, we have a lot of biomedical, automotive,
aerospace,
mechanical. Yeah.
prosthodontist. Ooh.
I see one civil engineer. Okay. All righty.
Awesome.
Do you want to take it, Drashti? Talk about.
Hi all, so I'm Drashti. I was born and raised in India. Like I said, my background's in civil engineering, so I kind of was fascinated by some of my field trips to amazing dams and bridges, and it's yeah, that's what I want to do. And I got into civil engineering, and then structural engineering really fascinated me. So I went on and did my master's in structural engineering, and I worked for about 3 years designing structures for power plants and some of the bridges. And then I realized that I think I like more meeting people, coordination, like talking to different people. So that's where I thought that, oh, it would be great to like also get to see what I'm designing, also get to see how the building actually goes together. So that's where as I was working, I found out more about what construction management is. And that's what we're going to talk about, like what's the role of a general contractor in a building getting built. So that's where my second master's rolls in construction management. And then I've been working with Turner ever since I graduated from construction management. Have been an engineer on a few different projects with Turner, but currently I am the MEP engineer. So I look after the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing and fire protection aspects of a building for the project. But yeah, Karen.
All right. So a little bit about me. I am originally from Venezuela. I also have a bachelor's in civil engineering. I wasn't really sure which path I wanted. Initially, I had applied to school for architecture school and ended up switching to a civil engineering program. And one of the things that really helped was doing internships. So I did an internship in an architecture firm. I also did an internship in a civil engineering design firm. And at the end of college, literally senior year of college, I found out what a general contractor was and did an internship with Turner. And that's where I ended up. And I've been with Turner ever since graduation, and I'm currently a project engineer. So a little bit different, like Drashti mentioned, she is in charge of the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, along with a few other things. So that is what the MEP stands for. I manage other trades, such as the structural trades, so concrete, steel, or finishes. When you look around wherever you guys are, if you're at your house, you see walls, windows, paint, floor. That is all parts of what we call scopes that we manage. So we threw in some pictures in there of some of our cool projects. It's the one on the left for me. It's in pretty much the middle of SoFi Stadium here in it's in Inglewood in LA. And then you guys can see the inside during our construction. We were testing out the video board. It was a really cool moment for all of us. I'm really proud of that. I don't know if you want to touch on the cool building that you've put there, Drashti.
Oh yeah, I totally missed that one. So on the left, I was taking a try to installing a brick on the building that you see right next to it. So one of the bricks you see is the one that I put in. This is one of a kind low-income high-rise building in Seattle that I was fortunate to work on, and I was in charge of everything exterior. So all of it that you see right now in this building, the facade, it was what I worked on. So all the grays that you're seeing, that's called window wall, so like glass facade. And then the browns are, of course, the brick. And then we have metal panels and the waterproofing. So yeah, like anything that encloses the building, that's the building envelope. That's what I worked on this building.
Great. So I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about what is a general contractor. Like I mentioned, my dream was to be an architect, and then I decided to switch a little bit and go to civil engineering school. And I had never heard of general contractor until my senior year of college. So I had no idea what it was. It's kind of one of those things, like the more you know, the more options you have. So I just want to start with, what it is that we do as a very vague term general contractor. So we'll start with the client. So let's say you are Marriott and you want to build a hotel. So what do you need to build a hotel? You're going to need an architect that's going to design it, right? They're going to be the ones that say, there's these many floors. This is the rooms in every floor. This is how we want the beds laid out, where the bathrooms are. That is the architect's role. And then they're going to grab then there comes the engineer. And the engineer grabs the architect's vision and makes it suitable. So they're the ones that are saying, yes, you're going to need this type of foundations. You're going to need this steel. You're going to need this much power to power all these light fixtures. And then there's the general contractor that's right in the center. And that's where me and Drashti come in. The three of us are working together, and we essentially let the client know, hey, this type of hotel is going to cost you this amount of dollars, and it's going to take this many months to do. And we are kind of a general umbrella, and we hire each of those scopes. That's what we call it. So like in a building, you're going to need electricity. You're going to need AC or heating. You're going to need plumbing, you're going to need foundations, and you're going to need steel. You're going to need a lot of things. So what we do is compile all of those experts. Each of those companies is an expert. They're an expert electrician. They're an expert at AC and heating or plumbing. And we compile all of that knowledge, and we put together a schedule and a budget. And our expertise of knowing how to sequence that work and keep track of a schedule and how to manage all of these different, like I mentioned, scopes is what makes us a general contractor. We are the ones that are in contact with the engineer and the architect and the client to deliver that product. Do you guys have any questions about that so far? I know we said questions at the end, but all right. So if you guys sat with Ruby a couple weeks ago, this slide might seem a little familiar. I did grab it from her presentation because I thought it was so good. During the lifetime of a construction project, there's these 4 phases: the design phase, the pre-construction phase, construction phase, and the owner occupancy. So in a general contractor, there's many roles. Not all of us are doing the same thing. Me and Drashti are actually doing similar but different things. So I just wanted to touch upon what each of those phases meant if you were in each of those. So let's say you have a company of 100 people. About 5% of your workforce is going to be on the design phase of that. Then about 20% of your workforce is going to be in the pre-construction phase. Your meat and potatoes, 65%, they're going to be in the actual construction phase. And then you have about 10% doing the project closeout and on occupancy. So what does that mean? So during the design phase, what you have to do is business development. So in order for you to get that client to get Marriott, you have to know who they are. You have to know that they want to build a hotel. So you're out there getting the job. You have to be in contact with the engineers and the architects. They're the ones that first hear about a project because it takes much longer to design a project than to build it most of the time. So even before if you're going to start building something today, the drawings are going to have started 2 years in advance. That's just, I guess, kind of not a set number, but they're starting much sooner. So you want to be in contact with those people so you know what projects you might be able to have ahead. So then you have the pre-construction phase, which is how you set up the job. As it's just like when you are looking for let's say you want to buy a camera, right? So you are the client, you want to buy a camera. You have all these things that you want to check off, and you want to do your due diligence and making sure that the camera that you buy has all of these, checks off all these different boxes. It does as many I don't know, frames per second or whatnot. So the client is doing the same thing with a lot of general contractors. So they go out, they go out to bid. So we are competing amongst all their general contractors to give the client the fastest schedule and the lowest budget, because you're always going to want fast and cheap, right? Same with your camera. If you have a camera that does all the same things, but one costs $20 more, you're most likely going to choose the one that's cheaper. So this is the pre-construction phase where you're pretty much setting up the job. You are what we call estimating it, and then you're buying out each of those contracts. Then let's say you won the job. So we won the job. Now we're ready to implement the plan. This is the executing plan. And 65% of the workforce for a general contractor is in this phase, because this is where you are executing the plan and you need safety. That's number one thing for a construction company. We have, at least on my current project, we have 2,000 men and women going there every day. And our priority is that they go home every day the same way they came. So safety is number one. Then you have your superintendents who are in charge of the schedule and kind of constructability. You have the project engineers like me and Drashti who coordinate all the drawings and are coordinating between the electrical and the plumber and the mechanical, and we coordinate all of that work. So that's why we have a lot of people in this construction phase. And then you execute the project, you finish it, you're handing it over to the owner. You want to take it, Drashti?
Yep. Awesome. Thanks, Karen. So we walked through the entire life cycle of a project, like what it takes to build a project. For this presentation, we're going to focus on pre-construction phase of the project. So that's when sometimes when you're trying to get a project, we're trying to win a project. So you are prepping for it. So that's a part of pre-construction. And the other times you have won the project, but you are setting it up to go get built, right? So this phase, I would take an example to explain what this process is. So let's say you want to buy a piece of product. We'll take the camera example again, right? So you want a camera. Now you're going to list the things that you want. Oh, I want so-and-so lens extension. I want, I'm going to choose between the 3 brands. I am going to, there's a weight limitation. There's all sorts of things, right? So you have, say, 10 data points on what you're looking in a camera. So that is something that the owner would give us, like, okay, this is a hotel I want to build. These are the functionalities I want to serve, things like that. So that's essentially called specifications. Then there are drawings. So those are called the plans, right? Now, going back to our camera, so you have the specifications, you know what you're looking for. What we're going to do is not just go to one shop and see what the price of the camera is and what the qualities they offer and just buy it. Most likely we're not going to do that. But what we're going to do is look it up on Amazon, look it up, go to a few stores and check it out, what it feels like, what they sell for, and do a little bit of research. Who gets you all the qualities you want and who gets you the lowest price, right? So those are the things that give you the best value for the money you spend. So the most important thing here is getting the best value out of it. Somebody might be selling a cheap camera with all the specs you need, but you know that that website is not a trustworthy place to buy such an expensive piece of equipment, right? So you might prefer spending a little bit more and buy it on maybe Amazon or a store that you trust, right? So all of that is to give you the best value for your money. So that's what the owners do, like put out their requirements, and then GCs like Turner would bid for the project, give them, the most important is schedule and budget. Give best value to the owner. How we set this process is individual scopes, like we talked about. So general contractors usually do not build everything themselves. So they'll hire a different contractor who would install all the walls, somebody who would pour all the concrete for the foundations, somebody who'll do all the paint, somebody who'll install all the tiles, right? That's how we buy the work from other people. And so once we ask all the other contractors to submit their pricing for each of their scopes, what we do is combine all of their proposals. Somebody says, oh, I'll install this in $100. Somebody says $150. So we take all of their proposals together, side by side, and evaluate as to which one is the best value, right? So we have an example for you, which is an exercise that we're going to do. It is for terrazzo flooring. So if we can go to the next slide. So that's a terrazzo flooring. It's not the bit that we are doing. It's not for this project, but it's just a couple of pictures that we grabbed so that we all know what we're talking about. So that's terrazzo flooring. So we're just going to say that we asked 3 flooring contractors to submit a bid for terrazzo flooring. I'll go ahead and share my screen here.
So I want to add that this pre-construction phase is by far the most important phase in all of those 4 phases. This is where not only you win or lose the client, but it's also where you set up your job. And at the end of the day, all of us are going to be working in a business, and a business role is to make money. So this is where you can set up the job to make or lose money. So it's a give and take, because you want to be competitive enough to win the job with the client, but you do not want to be so low where you're losing money with your contractors that you're hiring, right? So this is where you set it up to win or not win.
Perfect. So this is what we call our bid recording sheet or bid leveling sheet. So essentially comparing apples to apples, right? Everybody gives us their proposal, and then this is how we incorporate the data from their proposal. So I have 3 contractors: Composite Terrazzo, Urban Terrazzo, and Friendly Terrazzo. These are the 3 companies who have provided their proposals. And we use this sheet to get all their data written in the sheet in this to compare their proposals. Something that Turner does is Turner does their own estimate of what they think it's going to cost to get this work done. And it ends up being a good comparison to where the other proposals come to. So just having an idea of what it actually costs, the best guess, and then see what others bring forward. So what we'll do is so this is a proposal. So this is composite terrazzo's proposal. So that's the first company. So we usually like company's name, the person, contact person, their contact information, things like that. And then start with, so we usually read the proposal here and then enter all the information. So our first thing is field duration included in the base bid. So what is the duration that the sub or the contractor gave us they'll finish in? So when we read through this, they say manpower, it's 3-man crew and 20 working days. So what this means is they are planning to do this job with 3 people and they'll work through 20 working days, which means five days a week is the understanding of a work week. So 5 days is 5 working days in a week. So 20 working days means 4 weeks of project duration. And when a certain or a certain information that we want is included in the bid, we usually put a check mark. So I would take this and say, check, it's included. Karen, do you want to do the next?
Absolutely. So Drashti actually gave us a hint. I would like you guys to put it on the chat. What is the manpower? What would we put on that cell? Where's the chat?
Awesome. Correct. 3.
That's right. A 3-man crew. So then we put that there.
All right. Next is quantities. So floor area square feet and then base length. So that's for the flooring. So how much square feet or area of flooring do you need? And then around the edges, you do the trims. So what's that? So what they have in here is 3,600 square feet with 500 linear feet. So I'm going to write 3,600 square feet and then 500 linear feet. And since that information is provided, I'm just going to put a check mark in here. All right.
Sounds good. So for the next item, this one's a little bit more tricky. So the item is furnish and install all terrazzo for the spec section number and then the 2 different types. So what this means and what Drashti was letting us know before is we have the specs of the exact flooring that the architect and the owner want to put in that space. So a lot of the times there is similar products, but not exactly the same. So we just have to confirm that they are providing the product that was the exact product that the owner wants. In this bid, it doesn't specifically say, yes, we have those 2 types of terrazzo flooring, DZ1 and DZ2. What they do say is the bulletin, if you want to highlight, Drashti, the bulletin 7. So what that means is drawings can change throughout the course of construction, and the way they are provided to the general contractor is in bulletins. So let's say that we're working through the hotel that we're building and Marriott says, actually, we don't like this terrazzo flooring in blue. We actually want it in gray. So then they will specify that and specify the product and give it to us in a bulletin. That's how we have design changes. So what they're letting us know is that they have included all the design changes through bulletin 7. So for the purposes of this exercise, we are going to say, yes, they have it, assuming that bulletin 7 is the last bulletin that has been issued by the architect.
Okay. And also to add, if it was a separate item, we would say what it costs, but that is like their actual proposal, which is 62,000. So that's the whole scope of work that they have. So we'll put that 62,000 in here, and then just make a note here that it's included in the base bid, which means that this activity is a part of, sorry here, this activity is a part of this 62,000 number. So whatever is not included in the 62,000, we'll have to add price to that. Okay. Next, increase poured terrazzo from 6 inches to 8 inches. So that's a specific ask of, okay, the initial pour was 6 inches of terrazzo, the thickness of flooring was 6 inches, but what would it cost if we were to increase that from 6 inches to 8 inches? Now, here is what they have for extras. So reading through this, this is for minority business. This one's for moisture vapor barrier. This one's for tall inch poured in place terrazzo wall base. And this one's for silver coated mirror chips. This one's for 1/8 inch epoxy fill. And then this is working 8 hours on Saturdays, so like extra working. And then this one's for 10-hour work days. So looking through the bid, we do not see any price for increasing the thickness of the base from 6 inches to 8 inches. Now, it's a very common occurrence that people miss out on things. Like not all the information is clearly mentioned that you need. So what we usually do is in certain, in these type of situations, we would look at other bids. So I have things pre-populated here. So like Urban Terrazzo, they priced it that increasing from 6 to 8 inches is going to cost $2,200. So what I'll do is I'll say this costs $2,200, but I'll say Urban Terrazzo here so that anybody who's looking at this knows that this number was not provided by composite terrazzo, but it was provided by Urban Terrazzo that we just used. So the point of this is we have all of the values written down for each of the items in all the contractors, right? So that finally we are able to compare a price, which would mean, so it would be basically comparing apples to apples, right? Any questions on that one? Really quick. Okay. All right.
Yeah, so I think one important thing to note is when we are contracted with the client, we are essentially being responsible for the entire build of a building. So we have the walls, we have the foundations, we have all the MEPs, and we have to go and then go buy those contracts from each of those people. If we make a mistake and we do not, for example, in this specific example, we do not buy the base from 6 to 8 inches, then it will be on us to cover that gap. So we want to make sure that we are including all of the things that we have, we owe the owner, and we're including that into the subcontractor's bid. Otherwise, we'll be responsible financially for what we did not buy and have to close that gap. So making sure that your scope sheet, which is what we're showing right now, is you're hitting all of those items is very important. And if they are not providing it, you're assuming it as well and putting a cost to it. Jumping into the next item is to provide mock-ups. If you guys read not too far down, it says on qualifying assurance, we include a mock-up. So we're simply gonna provide a check mark there, and it's included as part of their base bid. What is a mock-up? A lot of the times you know that you want that specific flooring or that specific paint, that specific countertop, where you want that material, but you're not exact on which color you want. So a mock-up is pretty much like a trial piece. So what a mock-up that's a 4x4 is that Composite Terrazzo is going to provide a 4x4 square of different colors of flooring, like physical, and the architect is going to go and see what the actual product looks like in person in those 4x4 squares. And then they're going to be able to say, we want the light blue, or we want the royal blue, or whatnot. And that's how they choose their colors.
All right. So next in is furnish and install moisture barrier or moisture primer. So we did see that somewhere in here. Okay, so this says we will include a moisture vapor barrier with terrazzo flooring installation. If this alternate is chosen, please add the following amount to the bid. So which says it's an alternate. So this activity is not included in their base bid, which is $62,140. So if we were to add moisture vapor barrier, we need to account for $5,890. So I'm going to say $5,890 and then say that it's included. Okay.
Alrighty. So the next item is include floor prep, treat cracks, minor leveling. So what that means is usually that the terrazzo flooring goes on the structural slab, and structural slabs can have some depressions. They're not always really leveled, but you want your terrazzo finish that is a very high-end finish to be a nice, smooth surface. You don't really want to be walking around and then feel like a little depression as you're walking through a lobby of a really nice hotel. So what that means is that they come and before they do their flooring, they make sure they're leveling it off and they prep the actual structural slab. So in order to check if they have that, I think it's on the first page where they say, let's see. So they're actually saying when you scroll down to the preparation, we do not include any remediation for site conditions, and they have an alternate below. So they have excluded it from their base bid, but they have included it in the item below. So if you scroll down to the alternates, they include where is it? Yeah, they include the alternate to install the vapor barrier and do that work, which is actually the same as line item 16, right? That we have on our bid.
Yep.
Install and maintain remove floor protection. So in this one, we're going to say that it is included in line item 16 because they're both together.
Okay. All right. Next is work to be completed in 3 continuous phases. We're going to say that's included because in the bid, there is no special highlight of like not like phasing it down. The proposal that everybody was asked to submit is doing it in continuous phases. So that's how all the contractors have bid this project. So we're going to say that's included. Okay.
All right. So the next one is include 10-hour days. Usually most contracts are bought out from Monday through Friday on an 8-hour basis. However, sometimes you know that you're going to need them to go faster. And a way to do that is to work overtime. So you're working 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, or even Saturdays and Sundays. So what we're asking here is, what is the cost to work Monday through Friday for 10 hours? They have not included that on their bid, but if you go through the alternates, and I believe it is the last one, they say that in order to work those extra 2 hours of overtime through the duration of the 20 days, it's going to cost an additional $4,400.
And just to add a little bit of perspective, so yes, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and then 8 hours a day. That's the normal working hour. And then if you were to have people work overtime, the pay usually increases by time and a half. And beyond a certain point, it's almost twice as much. So that's why it's important to like understand how much it's going to cost if they were to work overtime. So we said 10-hour days. So that's working Monday through Friday, 2 extra days. And then now that we are asking is if they were to work on Saturdays at 8 hours. So every Saturday working 8 hours costs them. Okay, here it is. We will include working 8 hours on Saturdays to expedite the terrazzo installation. And that if that was to be included, we need to add $4,810. So that's that.
All right. So the next item, we already talked about what floor leveling was. And if you read through their bid, they did not actually include it. It's another extra. So I think you're hovering right over it. So if we want them to perform that additional 1/8 of an inch epoxy fill, it's going to cost an additional $10,560.
Okay. And then install, maintain, remove floor protection. So this is not included in this bid. And also none of the other contractors have included that. So what we usually resort to do is see how much Turner estimate was. So that's $5,000. So what we end up doing is adding $5,000 here. And then again, say that this was Turner's number, right? So here we are, we have pretty much all the information written down, and we have the total cost of doing the work. So now that now you see here that it's $95,000 against what their initial bid was, that's $62,000. There's some alternates that usually the owners would request, like, okay, what if we were to do 12-inch poured in place terrazzo in place of the 6-inch ones? Or what if we were to do silver coated mirror chips? So we did see those in here. So let's look for the 12-inch tall poured in place. So that's $6,060 that we have here. And we also saw the silver coated mirror chips. So that's $46,000. And we have that here. The alternates are typically not a part of the bid. So they are always written below the bid. All right, in the interest of time, Karen, I was thinking if we could directly go on the analysis.
I like it.
Okay, awesome. So we have 3 contractors. I already have urban and friendly terrazzo companies pre-populated, and we did the composite terrazzo together. So the bids came up to 95,000, 120,000, and 114,000. I'm just going to populate this real quick because that's going to be an important part of the discussion. So what terrazzo had was, urban terrazzo had was 4,800 square feet in 600 linear feet. Okay. All right. So looking at this, we would say that, oh, 95,000 is the best deal. Like we should go for 95,000. Turner's number, just for a little bit of perspective, was 125,000. Now, we just, like we discussed earlier, do not look at the price alone. So going through the whole bid, let's say we look at the quantities. So this is 3,600, 4,800, 4,600. So generally a rule of thumb is usually the bids should not have more than like 5 to 10% of a difference in between them. So this is a lot lower than what the other 2 bids came out to. Now, for comparison, we would look at the Turner estimate. So that's 4,820, right? So these 2 are pretty close to what we have, but composite is really low, which tells us that they probably have missed something, and that's why their number is really low. Going down, so we would compare, then we would go on and compare urban and friendly, and looks like they have everything we need. And then it's at 114, less than 120. So based on the information we know, friendly appears to be the best choice. It's close to what Turner's estimate was. The quantities seem correct. But before deciding, there obviously goes in a little more work of like follow-up questions and making sure that they have all the entire scope included, and making sure like their financials are good. They have a good track record of completing their jobs in time, and they have preferably like worked with Turner before, and they have a great safety record. Like things like that also come into picture before making the final decision. It's a very, very important decision, like Karen mentioned earlier. So general contractor's job is to like build the whole building. So if the flooring contractor misses something, then the flooring contractor does not have it in their scope, but Turner is definitely on the hook for providing that missed activity. So Turner will have to spend the money anyways, so it's important to buy it right. And like if somebody just signs up for some work and they did not, like if composite was selected and they had to install 4,800, but they only accounted for like 3,600, it's going to be so difficult for them to like make money on the work they are putting in. It'll be so difficult, and it just does not create a good working environment as a whole, because everybody is not happy because we didn't account for everything. So there are a lot of things that go in to like making a decision on who to go with. But this was I hope this gave you a little bit of an idea of what it looks like to buy a project. Karen, if you want to add something, and then we can open up for questions.
Yeah, no, that was really well said. I don't have much to add. Do you guys have any questions regarding the process or regarding just what a general contractor does, what our days look like, how we ended up here? Anything goes at this time. How much travel is there within general contractors? I would say a little bit. There's two types of travels. For example, there is what we called material verification. So there is, let's say you want to buy a certain countertop and that is only fabricated in Massachusetts. So then Turner is actually going to send you to verify that the counter is being made, that the material actually exists. So that's some kind of travel that we do. There's also within general contractors, you can specify on a certain type of building. For example, I've done a couple sports arenas, and there's people that really choose to focus on sports arenas. So they'll actually travel to different states or cities to build that arenas. So I have one of my teammates has done the last 11 NFL stadiums. So wherever they're building them, he goes. I've actually gotten to travel quite a lot with Turner. I went to China. I've been to Minnesota a few times. I'm going to Texas next week just to verify that the material is being built. What is your favorite part of working at Turner? Josh, do you want to take this one?
I'll take that one. I enjoy the people that I work with. Very helpful, very smart, intelligent people, and I learn a lot from them. So I'm actually very happy to see that my teammates care about me as a person and not just a Turner employee. So that's my favorite part.
Yeah, I'm gonna second that. Something that's pretty different from general contractors to a regular design job is how much you have to coordinate in between teams and people. So you're in contact with the electrical engineer and the electrical contractor, the plumbing engineer, the plumbing contractor, and all of these people are experts in their area, and you have so much to learn from all of them. There's always somebody that's going to know more about a certain thing than you do. There's all these experts in the field, and you're just constantly absorbing what they have to give you. Another great thing about working for a general contractor is the end product. I would say that there's not as many professions where you have actually something concrete that you can drive down the street and say, hey, I worked on that. And to be honest, when I drive through LA, I can point at multiple buildings and say like, hey, I did that for a year. Hey, I built the bathrooms in there. Hey, I put the curtain wall, the glass all around it. So it does give you a really good moment of pridefulness when you can show off your work as an actual physical thing.
Yes,
Thanks, guys.
that's a big one.
Yeah.
It's tangible. Very few professions give you that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think we have time for a couple more questions. Someone asked, what does a typical day look like for you guys?
So the most important thing is making sure that your project's running on schedule and you are under budget. So to ensure that, some of the things that we do is look at the drawings and make sure like what the architect has. So architect has a bathroom somewhere. So make sure, go back to the plumbing drawings and see if they have a drain there, if they have a sink there. Go back to the electrical drawings and see, is there a light there? Look at, oh, does it make sense? The doors, the dimensions, like partitions, things like that, right? So that's the main, one of the main roles that we have, to basically look at the drawings and make sure they all like jive together. That's one of the big things.
I would say, so there's kind of two different camps when you're working for a general contractor. You can either be in what we call the office or you can be in the field. So as of right now, both Drashti and I are in the office, but we have also both been in the field. So your days look really different. That's what a project engineer does versus a superintendent. So right now, Drashti and I are coordinating that work like she mentioned, and we're in a lot of meetings in person or through Zoom or Teams, where the superintendent is on the actual construction site every day. So he's there when the work starts and where the work ends, making sure that the men and women building the job have the information that they need from us. They know exactly what they're building. They are mitigating any problems that they see. A lot of the times we coordinate a lot of this work in models, in 3D models, and computers are very exact, but a lot of the times you go build it and it's men and women building this. So it doesn't exactly turn out how it is supposed to in models. So a lot of the superintendents are helping the constructability of how things actually take place in the field. So your days can look very different depending on the avenue that you choose. But the great thing about a place like Turner or any other general contractor is that you can, on a project, you can be in the office, and on the next project, you can be in the field. So you can switch back and forth. It's a very different day.
Amazing. I know there's like 1 minute left, and there's also like one question left to, can you guys, and I think it's a good question. Can you guys answer it like maybe kind of quickly? The one person asked, Haley asked, when did you learn how to use Google Sheets in such a complex way, or probably like Google or Excel in a complex way? Is that something you guys like learned just like through work, or like is that something you learned in college? Because I know like Excel can get pretty intense sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, Excel is such an amazing tool. There's always something else to learn. I definitely got pretty savvy with Excel during college, I would say. But at least once a month, I'm learning a new trick. I think a lot of your college experience is gonna allow you to use Excel, and it's just through learning it's just, I usually just type command on Google, and that's how I'll end up doing it. It's just, Google is also a great tool, but I think college was the first use that I got to it where I got really comfortable with it.
Yeah, it was a little different for me. It's when I started working. So that's where my company was using like all the VBA macros and those kind of things. I did learn a little bit at school, but things made way more sense to me when I was actually using those tricks and tips and techniques at work. So I would say at work.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much, you two. You guys answered like those questions so well, and just like a lot of like great insight and information for everybody who is like attending this session. If you think of a question after the fact, you can always either send it to outreach@SWE.org, or you can send it in the Slack channel, and we will pass it along. Karen, Drashti, do you have any final remarks on your own end for anything? No?
Just reach out if you have any other questions. It'll be a pleasure.
It was great talking to you all. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'll just say really quick one more time, thank you to our sponsors. We've got Amateur Radio and Digital Communications, Danaher Corporation, General Motors, and a special thanks to Turner Construction for making this session possible. Just as a reminder, there will be a discussion question posted in the Slack channel. It's optional, but if you have, I know not everybody has access because the Slack channel kind of had some issues with it. But if you have access, thank you. And if you have access, then you can see that question, you can answer it. All of the survey links for each sessions, including this one, are on the SHLA resource document. If you are having any issues accessing that, or if you don't have access, please send an email to outreach@SWE.org and we will get you access. But all the links to on-demand sessions and the session surveys that are due this Friday are on that sheet. So that'll be really helpful for you guys. And be excited and maybe sad because it's the end of the program, but like next week, we have our closing ceremony. on Monday. It's on the 15th. So at 6:30 Central Time. So you have the link to that already, but I'll be excited to see everybody there. But sad that it is the end of the SHLA 2023 year. But yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for attending this session. I thought it was really great. I feel like I'm always just learning so many new things every time we have one of these. So really fantastic. Thank you so much, Karen and Drashti. And I hope everybody has a good rest of your night.